So good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, karibu, and welcome to Kenya. Now, we all know Americans love to tell us it's the greatest country in the world. But let's be honest between us girls, we know it's not really true. The fact they have to keep reminding themselves is one of the giveaways. But as a long-term resident in Kenya, I'll let you in on a secret. Greatest place in the world, it's right here. How about a big round of applause for Kenya? I'm really delighted to have the opportunity to give this address at the New Cities Summit for 2025 and to share Rendeavour's experience in building cities across Africa. We commend the Charter City Institute for its unrelenting and dogged pursuit of establishing new cities globally. And we are proud to have supported the Institute and its founders for more than a decade now. And building cities, it's a long-term endeavour, so the time frame is really important. But as Rendeavour has proven, new cities definitely can improve governance and infrastructure and accelerate investment and economic growth. I'm going to begin by talking about how we see the economic outlook across sub-Saharan Africa and how this is compounding the chronic challenges facing the existing cities. And then I'm going to discuss the key success factors we've learned from the 7 cities Rendeavour is building across the region. In the 10 years to 2010, Sub-Saharan Africa grew at an average rate of 6%. That was 3 times the growth rate of the G7. 5 of the 6 fastest years in history, African history, were in that period. Nigeria and Ethiopia, 2 big countries with challenging histories, were growing at 9% and 12%, respectively, during that time period. Kenya was cruising along at 7.5%. But the great financial crisis and the tsunami of debt and liquidity that followed derailed that growth. And as the world was flooded with liquidity, many African leaders chose the easy option of financing growth through cheap debt, and they discontinued the path of structural reform. And up until that time, on World Bank measures, Sub-Saharan Africa was the fastest reforming region in the world. And the inevitable occurred: debt distress, less reform, and ultimately much lower growth. But the clean-up after the party is well underway. Fiscal discipline and structural reform are back in vogue, and the World Bank's recent forecast this week is predicting a steady decline in debt-to-GDP ratios across the region. And that's reflected in the budgets being announced by all of the East African countries this week. They all reflect that improving debt-to-GDP. And many other countries across the region have taken steps to address unsustainable fiscal deficits and debt loads. Others are tackling long-delayed structural challenges. And the clearest sign of this, the clearest tangible sign of this, is the stable and strengthening exchange rates right across the region, with the extreme case of the cedi in Ghana having appreciated 40% so far this year. Across Africa, the high growth has returned. Half of the 50 fastest growing countries in the world this year will be African. Sub-Saharan Africa's non-resource economies are growing at 6%. Excluding South Africa and Nigeria, the entire region is forecast to grow at 4.8% this year and 5.2% next year. And that's after downward revisions in light of the global trade frictions. Sub-Saharan Africa is one of only 2 regions in the world that the World Bank is forecasting will experience accelerating growth in the next 2 years. Kenya is experiencing growth of 5% on the back of a robust performance in agriculture, tourism, green energy, and digital services. And that growth is extending across East Africa. So one of the fastest growing regions in the world. People don't realise that. It's knocking on the door to become the fastest growing in the region in the world over the next couple of years. Moreover, the growth today is set against the background of a looming global demographic crisis and unprecedented labour shortages. Increasing opposition to immigration across the developed world is only going to worsen that situation. Africa is the only continent whose population will grow significantly this century. The population of Europe is going to decline by 150 million, and in Asia, the forecast is a decline of 285 million. Africa's share of the global workforce is going to increase from around 15% today to over 40% by the end of the century. And the only means of plugging this global labour shortage will be for tens or even hundreds of millions of jobs to move to sub-Saharan Africa, turbocharging growth and employment creation. And we see many examples of this on a daily basis in the 50,000 new jobs already created in Rendeavour's projects. For decades, China's been the world's factory. Today, that model is under immense pressure. Rising wages, demographic challenges, political risk, and restricted market access are making China less competitive. And that's prompting thousands and thousands of Chinese manufacturers to re-domicile. China's labour costs have more than tripled in the last decade. Labour costs in Africa are 10 times less, offering dramatically lower cost savings and greater workforce sustainability. Meanwhile, as we all know, market access is an existential issue. Africa offers the most favourable access to many Western markets. Not surprisingly, the Chinese are adapting very quickly. Our Chinese sales teams talk to over 1,000 Chinese companies, and we have multiple visits to our sites on a daily basis. This is a photo of a Kenyan worker in Full Care Medical's factory at Tatu City, just 35 minutes from here. Full Care is one of the world's largest suppliers of medical garments in the world, and this facility serves clients in Africa, Europe, and the US, employing 1,800 workers. Phase 2, which sits on a 54-acre site and opens later this year, will employ a further 7,000 workers. And all of that has happened in the space of about 2.5 years. Let's talk about service jobs. This is a photo of the largest bespoke call centre in sub-Saharan Africa, also at Tatu City. CCI, a global leader in call centre services, completed this 5,000-seat ultra-modern building last year, creating and training thousands of young Kenyan workers. The next phase of CCI's expansion will create a further 4,000 jobs. And who are the clients? 95% of the clients are blue-chip US corporates like AT&T, American Airlines, JetBlue, Avis, and many others. Business process outsourcing, or BPO workers in sub-Saharan Africa, are about 50% cheaper than those in the Philippines and India, and provide superior service levels and lower attrition. Not surprisingly, other major BPOs are moving to Tatu City and our projects in Ghana and Nigeria. And I would say of the top 60 BPOs in the world, 80% of those are looking at moving desks to Africa as we stand here. There are similar trends in software programming. Not surprising when you think about it. We have upwards of 1,000 software engineers already resident in our projects. So where in Africa are all these jobs going to go? Well, existing African cities are certainly not appealing. Conventional planning and controls broke down in the 60s. African cities are increasingly and incredibly congested. Utilities and infrastructure are overwhelmed. Environmental conditions in some cases can be shocking. And the cities tend to be highly insecure. In Asia, as cities grew, they experienced agglomeration economies. But today, African cities are actually becoming less efficient according to the World Bank, as they grow. Because of poor governance, rapid urbanisation that we've just heard about, and deteriorating congestion, this situation is going to get a lot worse before it begins to improve. So these conditions create a huge commercial opportunity to build new cities. And this is exactly what Rendeavour has been doing for the last 18 years with 7 new cities in 5 African countries. So how do we build new cities that enables Africa to realise its full potential? So I wish I could say we started with a brilliant plan on day one. We certainly didn't. Instead, our journey has been an arduous process of learning through trial and error. And I'm going to share the essence of what we've learned down into 10 fundamental building blocks. There are many other requirements, but in our experience, these are the key ones. So first, capital structure. It always amazes me how seldom clients ask, show us your balance sheet. But to build a city is a 50-year endeavour, and you need a balance sheet to match. Our shareholders are successful family investors with multi-decade time horizon and deep commitment to the impact of our platform. Several are multi-billionaires. Several are extremely successful global business people. We have no institutional or PE shareholders. We've got no one knocking on our door after 5-7 years, when will you give me our money back? Our balance sheet is structured to go the distance and to absorb the shocks that are inevitable given the time horizon and the geographic focus of our business. But for any successful or serious African investor, time horizon is obviously fundamental because transformational change is happening over a 30 to 50-year time frame, and successful businesses need to position themselves accordingly. Secondly, management. Cities are complex. They're multifaceted. Building them is challenging. It's highly multidisciplinary. Our senior managers are world-class and innovative A players who go the extra mile. In our experience, B players simply do not work in complex African businesses. Resilience and commitment are also key. Integrated and planning and execution across disciplines is fundamental. Once you allow for time and uncertainty, city building is like three-dimensional, multidisciplinary Lego. Collaboration is absolutely fundamental. Also, all of our staff live in country and our senior people all live in site. How else are you going to build a community? If your senior staff live on the other side of town, let alone in Mauritius or Dubai, frankly, you don't have a serious business model. And as I mentioned, we're living in paradise, so we don't have a lot to complain about. Third, in-house master planning and design. Superficially impressive master plans prepared by expensive foreign consultants are a dime a dozen, and normally they're a marketing gimmick. They lack local context and detail, and they're obviously not living documents. We employ world-class master planners and urban designers who are embedded 24/7 in our projects and who manage our local teams of designers. They bring world-class standards to Rendeavour. Equally importantly, our plans are highly contextualised, incredibly detailed, and constantly evolving in response to the needs of our clients or changes in the marketplace. In every respect, they reflect our values around people-centred functionality, local communities, sustainability, and environmental integrity. In each of our cities, we go out of our way to create a strong sense of place and a unique identity. This reflects the history and culture of our local communities while embracing the dynamism and multiculturalism of the future. At Tatu City, for example, we're creating Kenya's most walkable, livable and sustainable city. A city in a forest, in fact, for people from all around the world. Quite cool, isn't it? Fourth, high quality and consistently applied governance and controls. As we've just heard about the importance of governance, it's fundamental. Our cities have very thoughtfully designed citywide governance arrangements. These provide transparent and sustainable rules, levies and procedures for administering vibrant and inclusive perpetual cities and communities. Our rules governing development and building controls, health and safety, environmental matters, traffic rules and security are clearly subscribed and strictly enforced. And this has been an area of tremendous learning for our teams and for our clients. Because our markets are not always accustomed to clear or strictly enforced rules. Institutionalising rules requires patience, tact and backbone. But one of the hugely gratifying aspects of our projects is at some point in the journey, our residents strongly endorse and become the strongest advocates for having these highly controlled environments with high quality governance. Consistent application with zero exceptions is absolutely critical. I was told to take this anecdote out, but it's one of my favourites, so I'm not very diplomatic, I'll put it back. So it's a Supreme Court judge in one of our projects is caught for speeding, and the young traffic attendant pulls the lady pulls her over. She plays the obvious card, "Do you know who I am?" And the young traffic attendant says, "Yes, I do. You're a lady who's about to be clamped." I wasn't meant to say that, but anyway. Security is one of the most important aspects of a highly controlled environment and something that residents value incredibly highly. Our cities are extremely safe places to live, work and play, and we never make excuses or tolerate security lapses. Excellent relations with our surrounding communities, ensuring the bulk of our security teams are made up of people from the local communities, is absolutely fundamental in sustaining high security. Fifth, mixed income, mixed use. Real cities, as opposed to sordid vanity projects, are mixed income and mixed use. Our cities have jobs, homes and amenities for a full range of incomes. Mixed income, mixed use creates diversity, it creates dynamism and efficiency. Agglomeration economies, it's trendy to think that they're about creating these concentrations of highly skilled people in one place, but they're actually about creating an efficient and multifaceted ecosystem. It's a much broader concept. 50,000 jobs at Rendeavour encompass everything from street sweepers to scientists. Mixed income, mixed use means that employees, including low-income employees, can live close to work in a secure environment with excellent lifestyle amenities. These benefits are even more pronounced when the city is in a remote or decentralised location like Tatu City or Olaru City in Lagos or Apollonia City in Accra. For example, employees of CCI Global no longer need to travel to central Nairobi. That cut their travel and accommodation costs by 50% on average and improved disposable incomes by around 25%. Daily commute times fell by 2 to 3 hours. So people are less tired, they can focus more, they're better employees. Increasingly, international BPO clients focus on these employee welfare issues when evaluating alternative sites and providers. And don't think that's just a nice thing to say, that is reality. These US corporates, one of the first places they want to visit is the village schools to see the programs supporting those schools. It's just as important as the facilities and the quality of the services. And our cities are designed to optimise and leverage these benefits. Finally, we also want to create an environment that is conducive for very highly skilled workers. Think cutting-edge researchers or tech entrepreneurs, because many high-value activities simply can't happen without these kinds of professionals. A gating issue for many of these individuals is world-class schools that position their children for leading international universities. At Tatu City, we have 5,000 students today at very good schools. We'll shortly be announcing a school partnership at Olaru City in Lagos with one of the world's very best schools. and we intend to make that the #1 school in Africa. And that new school has already attracted some of the most successful tech entrepreneurs in Africa to Uluru City. Sixth, embrace your local community and ESG opportunities. I think this is one of the things we understood from the beginning, thankfully, because we see our local communities as one of our biggest assets. We like to say they were here long before we were, and they'll be here long after we're gone. We embrace thoughtful ESG because it enhances the sustainability of our projects, and because, frankly, it's just the right thing to do. We respect all aspects of local cultures and incorporate local culture elements into urban designs, social activities, and operating procedures. The local community then becomes our informal political constituency, our informal security team, and the backbone of our labour force. It's a huge win-win for us. We've provided over 2 million school meals to our local school children at Tatu City, driving up enrolment and test scores and driving them up dramatically, with many other large-scale health, environmental and social programs across our projects. I can honestly say we started doing this to support our relationship with our local communities and because we thought it was the right thing to do. It was only later that we realised there was a major commercial benefit as our clients, our domestic and international clients, tapped into our ESG programs to support their own brands and values. Seventh, global scale and quality infrastructure. That's our project in Lagos. We designed and fund all of our own infrastructure as well as our power, water and fibre optic networks. For each of our projects, that's about a $500 million investment. We tend to front-end and fully scale much of our bulk infrastructure for the simple reason that it removes one of the biggest preconceptions that our development partners would otherwise have. We take that question away before they even have a chance to ask it. Our water, power and ICT utilities are independently managed and regulated. This enables us to achieve extremely high levels of reliability and scalability, as well as world-class service. For example, at Tatu City, we have a vertically integrated water company, which is the most reliable water supplier in Nairobi. It's the only place in the region where you're not going to get water rationing. Scale also makes it possible to take the Mickey Mouse factor out of infrastructure, utilities, construction, and management. Our senior construction professionals are amongst the best on the continent, having managed complex multi-billion-dollar infrastructure projects around the world. 8, be a global crossroads. Great cities welcome investors and professionals from around the world and have global connectivity. Rendeavour markets to investors, developers and partners in all regions of the world. This includes industrial companies, education and health groups, apartment developers and development finance institutions. From Shanghai to Sydney and to Tbilisi to Toronto, we visit every region of the world where there is potential interest in our host markets. The success of these outreach programs means that our cities have professionals, developers and partners from a great many different parts of the world, as well as strong global networks. 9th, lifestyle is key. I was in Ireland not so long ago, meeting with the group that promotes foreign investment, and Ireland's probably #1 in the world. They have 40 international offices promoting foreign FDI. And the first thing the lady started talking, she said, you can go surfing 5 minutes from here. So she talked about the lifestyle benefits, the schools, the ecosystem, the environment. At the end of all of that, they talked about the tax. So lifestyle is increasingly important to high-quality economic development. Highly qualified international and domestic professionals increasingly want to live in cities with world-class entertainment, sports and recreational amenities and activities. Rendeavour's cities curate frequent large-scale sporting, cultural and artistic events. This ensures that our projects are great places to live and play. 10th, special economic zones and free trade zones. Most of our projects are free trade zones or special economic zones. Tartu City, for example, is a fully operational mixed-use SEZ. These zones provide major tax and duty benefits. They also enable us to streamline regulatory approvals through one-shop stops and other arrangements. In the case of Alaro City, even customs clearance happens on site under Nigeria's free trade zone rules. This provides our clients with the best possible ease of doing business conditions. So maybe I can try and link some of these themes back to what Mark was speaking about with governance. We don't pretend that ours is a model that will be replicated by lots of other developers or as a general theory of urban development in Africa. But I think economic growth is much more organic and messy and less top-down than many people realise or would like to think. And in my experience, the main transmission mechanism for economic development is powerful demonstration effects. Kenyans are constantly talking about how well Tanzania is doing. Kenya needs to get on its bike. It doesn't want to be lapped or passed by Tanzania. Nigerians are constantly talking about what's happening in Côte d'Ivoire. So that demonstration effect is hitting home here. And we see that at a city level. We see residents or government officials saying, how come there's no accidents and people drive carefully on your roads? So the next question is, how do we apply that outside the city? How come you have 24/7 water, come what may, and the rest of Nairobi doesn't? So we don't think we have a general model, but we think the demonstration effect from what we're doing is going to be very powerful. So to sum up, what happens when you deliver these 10 key city building blocks in unison, as we have in several of our projects? Well, what you get is all of the incredible advantages of Africa without any of the disadvantages. Thank you.